Good morning, everybody. Just wanted to get together here with Frosty this morning. Hope you guys are staying safe and socially distant. But coming at you live this morning to talk through today's Bundesliga slate. It's very interesting slate. We're just starting to have some lineups come through. So, they'll come through live as we're starting to try to build some of our theory. And Frosty, I think, when you're looking at the only lineup that's sort of come out so far, there's been quite a reveal. We were really eager for that Sancho fade, and it sounds like Dortmund was as well. He's not playing at all, or he's not listed in the starting lineup. How do you think that changes, their chemical makeup as a team, if you will? Does that make Haaland more valuable? Hazard, Guerrero, what should we take that news to be?
Yeah, man, I think Sancho was looking to his own fate as well. I've seen pictures where he's quarantine thick right now. He gained a couple pounds, like most of us, right? But um, I'm I think that makes Haaland a better play. I'm just really excited to play him. And last week we were really bold on him, and he was only like 14% or something like that. So
Yeah.
um, that I think I'm going right back to the well. I'm not seeing. I mean, I'm seeing a potential formation, but I think there's something wrong with it because Guerrero's as a center back, and he usually plays on the wings. So I'm waiting to see if that gets corrected. But
Yeah, I'm,
man,
I'm
without
seeing
Sancho,
I'm seeing him
what?
on the left hand side some
Okay,
on Twitter.
okay. So then I need to check that out because if that's the case, I mean, he's only 7K. I think we just go back. I know last week he was a lock because Hazard wasn't playing either, but I mean, man, he did so good for us last week. Who do you like from Dortmund besides Haaland right now?
So actually, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of, as lineups are coming in, populating my sheet here. So for Dortmund, I do like Hazard now that Sancho is out. I think the biggest question mark for me is health and fitness, and if people are going to be playing 90 minutes. A
Mm-hmm.
popular thing that we were discussing on our Discord chat last night, which is free right now to join for anybody interested, um, was that even with Sancho in, Sancho and Hazard are now not, neither of them are viable. But with Sancho out, Hazard presents a lot of opportunity there. The one thing is that Dortmund have a huge game on Tuesday against Bayern to potentially play for the league, since those are the two dominant teams in the league. So I'm wondering how much rest will come into play, since they have to turn around and play in 2 days, especially just coming off of quarantine as well. So I think Vegas knows some of that as well. There's not a ton of goals in this game. I think they've just gone back up to 3, but they've been hovering at 2.5 over under on goals for quite some time. So I wonder if it's going to be kind of a muted attack, or maybe they're saving Sancho for Tuesday and trying to whip him back up into shape a little bit more. But I think if they go up 2 or 3 goals in the beginning, you can see a lot of substitutions that can really hurt us. So I don't know. I think Haaland is pretty hard to to fade in general.
Yeah.
And he's not really that expensive either. So uh, I don't know. It's tough. I think if I'm looking at my sheets and some of my analytics, I think on DraftKings, I'm okay with going Hazard because he's 8,400. He's not that expensive. Guerrero's only 7K. So you can be creative and have differentials with other teams, take stands elsewhere, and maybe just take 1 or 2 pieces of Dortmund.
Okay.
I'll also mention too, the goalkeeper Berkey. I think is an interesting um, sort of feel, just because he just represents a lot of safety, but he is the most expensive. So I don't know if I'll be going him today, but he's got the best chance today of a clean sheet, which, by the way, the best chance for a clean sheet is at 28%. So Vegas thinks
I
there's going to
know.
be a lot of goals today. So hopefully that's the case and not a first half of no goals like we had last week.
Yeah.
So, but that's how I feel about Dortmund. I don't know. I mean, if you share some of that, or I think
Yeah, and
Guerrero
like
did
I.
great last week. Yeah,
Mhm.
but I think a lot of game log watchers and stuff like that will pick into him, and it just makes me wonder the upside of people like Brandt, Hazard, Haaland, instead of going after that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think pretty much everybody on Dortmund is viable. So if and GPPs you can mix and match. Because I think how only think Haaland is going to be. Do you think he's going to be, let's say, 40-50% or higher on than that?
Cash,
Yeah,
Haaland is interesting. I think, if you follow soccer, right, uh, you know who he is. If you don't, you've never really heard of him before. And if you look at his stats, because he's only been really playing for Dortmund for a short amount of time, he doesn't pop off the page. As you'll see, even in our stats on our projections portal, right? But
yeah,
it's the knowledge that we have about who he is. He's Ben's favorite player, but I think that knowledge makes me think that he's going to be more owned than maybe he was. He was 14% owned last week,
yeah, that was
which I couldn't
ridiculous.
believe that. And I think as the fish kind of come out and start being more educated, he'll become more popular. But I wonder if this week might be the last week we get him at a lower ownership than he should be in cash. I think in cash he should be 35 to 45% owned on a 4-game slate.
Okay, I'll
If we
take
get
it.
him at 15 to 25 or even 15 to 30, I think that's still really good. I mean, we differentiate ourselves from 70% of lineups.
Yeah,
I don't know for sure if that's going to happen this week, but I was shocked last week at the ownership for him.
yeah. All right, we got some questions rolling in, and most of them is about me waking up. Some of you guys know I live in the West Coast, and I went to sleep like 3 hours ago. So I'm doing my best, guys. So let me see. Let me skip through the wake up homie messages. All right, so Garrett, who is extremely active in our Discord, he knows a lot about soccer. He's asking, um, Gladbach had the most set pieces goals on the slate with 10. You attacking that? Uh, oh man, that's another team, right? That Leverkusen, we don't know what we're gonna get from them because
Yeah.
of the game that um, Luke is saying. I know I made the statement that I'm probably fading all of them, but I mean, I'm not, I'm not fading all of them per se, but I'm not looking forward to playing them. So I like Gladbach. I can totally see he Leverkusen just looking forward to the next game. The problem is that they're not that cheap. I was expecting them to be a little bit cheaper. I
Who
know it's
for
gonna be
Leverkusen or for
uh,
Gladbach?
Gladbach.
Uh-huh.
They're they their main set piece taker Hoffman. He's like I believe he's almost 8K. Yeah, 7.7K. So it's kind of hard to play him over somebody like Proger, right? That we both really like. And Proger is only I think it's 8.1K. Yeah, so for 300, I think I'd rather just play Proger or 7.8. You can play Rashika that I know we both love too. So it's kind of
Yeah, the
I don't know.
Discord chat doesn't like Rashika because he burned us so bad last week. But
I know we're supposed to take down and he just did absolutely nothing. That was insane. I don't know if you have any other plays from that game.
yeah, I think we talked about it last night quite a bit. I think we were theory crafting for about 4 hours yesterday on Discord. I think one of the main issues that making a cash lineup with a piece of that game is you're really just kind of rolling the dice for where
Yeah,
results are going to come from. If you look at Leverkusen, even if they put Kai Havertz up top, we talked about this quite a bit. They've got 3 or 4 midfielders that all cross the ball really well and
yeah,
often. So it makes sense that they would put Kai up front because he's very much a fulcrum player. He's very goal dependent. I don't like playing forwards who are so service dependent. You look at somebody like uh, what's his name? What's his first name? Kane in Tottenham.
oh,
Harry Kane,
Harry,
right? He has a lot of shots, right? Which was it's what makes him cash viable, right?
yeah,
But the thing is about Kai is he averages 1 shot on target per game. Now he doesn't play up front a lot, so those stats will skew. But even so, when he's playing in the midfield, he only has about two. almost 2 total shots per game. So you say he goes up front, maybe he doubles that. It's not really the volume that we would look to see from a forward. And then you're basically relying on a lot of crosses. So you're rolling the dice, picking a name out of a hat from any of their midfielders that cross the ball as much
Yeah.
as they do. And you're relying on a crossed ball or a set piece goal, which is harder to predict than an open play goal. So even though Gladbach and Leverkusen do a lot from their crossing. I hate basing my cash lineups around that because it's so uncertain. Not that open
Yeah.
play is more certain, but
Yeah, I know.
it's just tough to, especially because like you said with the pricing, every
Yeah.
Leverkusen midfielder is expensive because they
Yeah.
all can pop off. So
If you had to pick one, which one would it be?
for Leverkusen,
Yeah.
um, I mean,
You're like, take a name out of a hat.
probably Dimmer Bay
Okay.
over Bellarabi because they both cross the same amount.
Yeah.
But Dimmer Bay gets a lot more peripherals from a interception and tackling one uh, sort of standpoint. So they both concede about the same amount of fouls. Yeah, like I said, they both do about the same
They're
amount of
so,
crosses, but
you know.
there's just a little bit more of an edge for Demir Bay where I feel like he gets more into the game. So even if he's not getting far forward and getting a lot of crosses, he finds other ways to contribute. And so that's where I always look for, floor plays like that, if people are diverse in how they're getting their points.
Yeah. I was gonna say that Kai, for some reason, he's a midfielder on DraftKings. So even if you want to play them, like you're basically spending all your midfield just to play Kai and Demirbay or Amari or Bellarabi, like any of them. They're all
Yeah.
viable. I think I'm leaning. Hold on, I'll tell you right now. Who am I leaning? Yeah, I prefer Bellarabi right now. But man, I don't have a strong conviction about it, so I might get off with them. But then it's hard to not play any Leverkusen either. I know I made that statement that my first run, uh, optimal didn't have any Leverkusen on Discord, and everybody was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know it's kind of hard, but it's just hard to predict what's gonna happen with them."
Yeah, and one of the things that I use for my cash lineups is where does the I try to think of where does my money go? Where do the stats go? Right.
Yeah.
So if you look at Leverkusen, there's a 5 point diverging tree of where points can go. If you look at somebody like Rashika or even Grifo, for example, the points funnel towards those players. So if that
Yeah.
team is going to be scoring fantasy points as a whole, typically there's a larger percent chance that those two players receive a lot more of that service and get involved with that much more than just kind of throwing a dart with any of those five
Yeah.
players. You could take Timber Bay and Bellarabi or Kai fine in GPPs. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
just think
I
in
agree.
cash, I just think it's really hard to nail down whether or not uh, you can trust the points being put in that direction.
Yeah. So are you fading Leverkusen in an optimal type of build?
I mean, the thing is about full fading a team. I don't typically like to make that kind of statement. I try to see if, I try to get my locks in and then try to build after that. Obviously, I think Hayland is important to have. I think uh, pieces of Freiburg, which we'll talk
Mhm.
about,
Yeah.
is important to have. I really like Gunter as well from Freiburg. He's if you can
Same
get
here.
him, he's such a great player to have. But I think that 5,500 to 7,500 to 8,000 type of range for midfielder is really where the differentials are going to come in and where you see the winners being posted. So why don't we, I think we have all the lineups out now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I
So
was
we
gonna
should be
say.
able
That we should
to,
probably move on and try to be a little faster because we could spend hours and
yeah,
hours talking soccer. So if you guys have any questions, like it helps a lot, honestly, to have the questions because you guys can guide us what you need most help with, right? Because me and Luke can go for hours about Leverkusen midfielders, and maybe it's not the most helpful at this moment. But let's go to the Freiburg game because I think there's a lot of viable players in that Freiburg lineup. Who do you like so far? Man, that game is gonna be good.
Yeah, I'm gonna be watching Freiburg versus Werder Bremen.
So who do you like first glance? I just noticed I have three of them in my optimal lineup right now, so I need to switch that around. It's too much for me.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I really, really like even both sides of that game. I like Grifo, of course. Some of the looking at my forwards page or have uh, filtered the projections portal by forwards, and you've got Grifo there at 7,900. It's good participation. Um, the one thing I don't like about Freiburg is, they opened at 3 goals over under, and now they've gone down to 2.5 over the last couple of days. So it makes me think that it's going to be a pace down spot, but still, my lock of locks, and I've been saying it all week, is Niles Peterson. He's only
Yeah,
5K. He's going to be playing up front. Werder Bremen's defense is terrible. Their defense against attack is a 20% boost to that attack in spots. His results independency. So if you take goals out of his DK average and then compute that as his actual real results independency, uh, he only has a variance of 5 points whether he scores or not, which tells me that he's a very, very consistent player. Has over 33% goal participation between goals and assists. He's just he screams cash play to me.
yeah,
He's
that's
probably my favorite. I've had him locked probably pretty much all week
yeah. Like
and haven't gotten
he's
off him.
solid. And if you guys have been with us for a while, you know that the second forward is always a struggle. We usually have a good forward, and then we're like, man, what do we do with the next spot? So yeah, he's an optimal play for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think he'll be kind of chalky too, because people
I
know
think
that
so
Werder
too.
Bremen is not very good. So I think that in cash games, people will start with Haaland and Peterson, and start from there. So we're not really reinventing the wheel here, which is why we kind of spend some time on some differentials as well, because I think that's where a lot of the cash industry is going to go, is those two forwards. Other pieces too, I've been sort of touting Rashika as well, which is on the other side. Freiburg only has I think about 55% average possession, which isn't a huge amount. And so I think that the most realistic thing for me is probably a 2-1 score. And I think if that one goal is scored for Werder Bremen, Rashika has what 40% goal participation. So
Yeah,
you've got a 50-50 shot of getting that 10 points on DK or 15 points on FanDuel from Rashika. He is
yeah,
quite goal dependent though. So
yeah.
that's the trade-off as we saw last week.
Yeah, but he's gonna be so low owned. I know people are not gonna forget that he put last week, so I like that play.
Yeah,
Um,
and why play for Rashika when you could play Grifo for $100 more?
yeah,
So
or
that's
Kai Proger or just so many options. That AK range is just stacked.
yeah, yeah.
Somebody's asking if we like play or playa, whatever you can. No, I'm not sure how you pronounce that
Oh,
name.
plie. We'll go with plie.
Yeah,
Plie.
that
Plie.
was a little. That was like a ballet
Little
dance
flair.
move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing about plie, he doesn't scream um, a play for me in cash simply because Leverkusen are really organized at the back. So like their defense versus forwards is a 20% decrease. So they're very organized. His goal participation for being their upfront forward is 32%, which is on the lower side for talismanic people like that. He's still viable. He's still fine, but he's 9K. I mean, you could go with
Yeah,
Hazard, you could go with Rashika, you could go with Proger, you could go with Griefer,
yeah,
and
it's like
save, anywhere from $1,100 to $600. So to me, that's not an optimal way to go in
yeah.
cash.
Or you can just pay half for Peterson. It's
Yeah.
it's I mean I like him, but I don't know if I can pay 9K for him. You need a goal and a little bit more than a goal. Even just a goal doesn't cut it for the 9K. So um, I think I'm fully fading. I don't know if one of my GPPs will have it, probably, but I don't. I'm not very sure of that. Maybe you can do something like Hoffman Plie or something like that in GPPs, but not a huge fan, to be honest.
I would rather just go over Sheikah and GPP, to
Yeah,
be fair. I mean,
yeah,
I just think it's better to do it that way.
yeah. I don't see a scenario where I'm playing play either. Now he's gonna score a hat trick, so you guys
Yeah.
better play him.
I put a line in there that I labeled like all the chalk in the world, and if that hits, I'm going to be so mad because I'm not playing that in
Yeah.
GPPs anyway. So let's move on to midfielders here. Is there any other questions for forwards?
Somebody's asking for Brand, but I don't think he has forward eligibility, but we can still move on to him. Let me see. How much is Julian Brand? 7.2K. Oof. I think I'd rather play somebody else than Brand, but I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. Because Hazard is only what, like 700 more? Oh no,
No,
1.2K.
he's 1.2K more, but then
Yeah,
you have
I think
Guerrero at
yeah, it's
7,
not, yeah, I know.
and you have
Man,
Hakimi at 6,600.
yeah.
So Brandt is interesting because he is playing centrally. So he kind of gets into that, he plays centrally on a good team, so the chances are going to be there. But really, this year he only has 10% goal participation.
Mm,
So you're really looking at him from a getting crosses standpoint, getting some peripherals. He only averages 1.75 crosses per game. Um,
mm,
you're not really seeing. It's not a James Madison type of deal where you see all
no,
these
definitely not.
peripherals and then goals are spiking his value. I don't know. Not for me. Not for
Not
me.
for me either. Especially he sounds like he's a little bit goal dependent, and I mean, if we're gonna do that, might as well just go for other forwards and have a little more upside.
I
Um,
saw Ram. He put in for. He's been mentioning Robert Scove for Hoffenheim.
mhm.
He
Yeah.
is on the cheaper side, 7,500, which is good. And Paderborn are the worst team in the league that he's facing.
Mm,
The
yeah.
one thing that I have a problem with Scove, which I've been watching all week basically, is again he only has 16% goal participation. So
No.
while he gets his, or 14% actually. So while he gets his goals, not very often, I would say. He does get 5 crosses a game, so that's an example of somebody that I would be more willing to play than somebody like Brandt because at least he
Yeah.
can get his points a different way.
Their forward, Babel, something like that. He's only 4.5K, so that's not a bad punt. Uh, he's super cheap.
Yeah, it's just you look
Let's
at some of this goal participation. There's nobody that stands out where the points
yeah.
funnel to.
Yeah, but I mean, somebody's gonna score, but we just I'm not sure who. And even then, even to be against the worst team in the league, like their odds are not like that great, anyways. It's not
Yeah,
like
they're
they're
only
gonna
projected at
crush.
1.4
Yeah,
odds, which is second in the slate to Dortmund. So
yeah. Uh, Is, we should probably wrap up in 3 minutes. But let me see if there's any other questions. All right, guys, if you guys have any questions, last call, please, so we can get into the lineups and make the last adjustments. Any other players that you see standing? Oh, what about goalkeeper? What are you doing at goalkeeper? Because I hate even trying to think about goalkeepers, man.
well,
They need to be removed.
goalkeepers, I usually go for saves. That's just my thing. But I'm not going to be going towards uh, the Wolfsburg keeper just because Dortmund
No
are too good
thanks.
at finishing chances. I just don't think I'm going to go in that direction. The one that keeps popping for my models is Lucas Radecki for
Mm,
Leverkusen.
yeah,
Um, we're not really going for clean sheets here. We're going for shots. I thought about doing because I think that's going to be the most active game. That's going to be a really fun game to watch
yeah, it's gonna be fun game.
outside the Freiburg match. So I think that there's going to be a lot of chances in that game. But neither team are really that proficient at converting their chances. Like I'm projecting Gladbach to have at least 5.5 shots per goal or shots on goal.
I'll take
Um,
it.
and with Radecki's save percentage being about 90 something percent or whatever, or actually it's probably lower than that. It's probably 80 something. He's projected at 4 saves. That's 8 points. he might give up a goal. That's 6 points from your keeper for 4,700. I'll take it.
The win, 11 points.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, if they win, yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
just
usually do it. Go
I
ahead.
was gonna mention defense really quick as
Mhm.
well. And that's an opportunity to really, I think, pay down as well, which we know about already. We usually pay down at defender anyway, but I know AC, he brought up Stefan Posch for
Mhm.
2,600. Um, Again, he's facing the worst team in the league. He doesn't have a lot of or any really goal participation, but he's cheap. He's a punt. It allows you
Yeah.
to pay up and stack your midfield even more.
Yeah, no, I'm locking him in. I mean, 2.6K when there's no other great defender on the slate, sign me up.
Yeah.
For goalkeeper, just going back to it, I usually advocate for paying down, but I mean, paying down is not even that low. 4.1K for the cheapest goalkeeper, it's not worth it. So, um, this is going to be the rare occasion where I'm actually going to pay out for either Berkey or Radecki, Lucas Radecki. So, we shall see.
I think
What
one
are
one outside one outside option for keeper is Jan Sommer, because
mm,
Leverkusen funnel their attack by crossing. It can be actually a lot easier to rack up some saves that way off of headers or deflections and shots from outside the box when service isn't working. So there's a lot of opportunity there as well. I just think there's a lot of goals in that game, and I'm hoping that Leverkusen does the scoring and not Gladbach.
yeah. All right, Luke, do you have any last second things so we can get some time, get some monkey knife fights, some price picks on Discord? Anything else?
Yeah, I had some price pick plays earlier in the week for let me see if the lines have moved all that much. Let's see. Rashik is still sitting at 5. To be honest, they've taken down a lot of the players from the games this morning. Um, Rashika is at 5. Plie is at 6.5. Plie, I'm not a fan of. Rashika, I still
Mhm.
think you could put over 5, but I think he was like 4 or 4.5 earlier in the week, which is what I got him at. So um, everything else is for tomorrow or for the
Yeah.
Bayern game.
What do you
So
think about Haaland at 10 and a half? So basically scoring a
two,
goal.
he's 2 goals or a
Really?
goal and assist, pretty
Yeah,
much.
it's
I think it's
um,
too high. I think it's too
yeah.
high. I think that we can't even confirm 90 minutes with him,
Yeah, I mean,
really.
I think it's too high, but I don't think you played the under either. I think it's just because he could score 3 goals in 20 minutes or less.
Yeah, and I would think about doing the over on Thomas Mueller as well for Bayern Munich,
Okay, yeah, I like that
uh,
too.
just
And
because
what?
Lewandowski looked terrible last
Yeah,
week.
just real quick for Monkey Knife Fight, because I know somebody asked. So I like the let me see what game is it that I put my play in? Oh, it's the Hoffenheim and Paderborn. You have Bebeu for 1.5 points and then Prager for 1.5. So I like the over on
Yeah, I like those.
both of them. So that's gonna be my Monkey Knife Fight for today. So it's a little reward for everybody that tune in today.
I have to tune in until the end, though.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's it for me. Basically, now we have 27 minutes to crunch the last numbers and
Yeah,
move
I
on.
think just a brief mention of FanDuel really quick before we get off here.
Oh
So
yeah, it's
we've got
FanDuel.
the we've got the Munich game. That's the later game today. Uh, I watched almost the entirety of that Bayern match last week, and Lewandowski looked terrible. He was completely invisible.
Mhm.
Mueller was very active. So if I'm looking at forward mids for that game, I'm only really considering Mueller or Gnabry, and
Mhm.
probably Mueller because he's cheaper, because you can go Mueller, Peterson, Hazard, and you've got plenty of money to pay up some at defense. Go get Gunter, pay for Posh, things like that. My son's awake.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Yeah. It's time to wrap it up. The kids
so
are waking up.
that's right. Well, not at your house, but at mine.
No, not yet.
So,
One more
but
hour.
that's what I would say for Munich is Lewandowski fade. I'm on board with. because it lets you get some other options.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's it for today. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in.
And as
As
always, we're
yeah,
building
go ahead.
lineups in Discord. You know, we're putting things in together. It's free to join right now. Come in and talk shop with us, ask us questions. We're willing to admit that we don't know the answers, but we'll go and research answers we don't know and things like that. We're really growing a community in there. It's becoming a think tank almost overnight since we've been back. So it's really good to be back. We've got I think Frosty, your cores are a perfect record of cashing so far, 7-0.
Knock on wood, man, that we're 7-0 so far.
So we've had a lot of success. Obviously, you know, we want to be able to sustain that as much as we can. But we appreciate you guys joining us. And again, Discord costs nothing. Come in, talk shop with us, and we look forward to meeting with you